All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your hosts KS and Jackson. Just full disclosure, this is a packed news show because we haven't done news in like a couple of weeks, and we
This
just
is what
let
happens
a
when we
lot.
take a week off.
Yeah, yeah,
Shit
these
pops
news
off.
items have piled up, but like at least there's some interesting stuff to go over for this very news heavy episode of Back to the Blockbusters. But some really interesting, exciting things mixed in with some pretty cool trailers, other movie news. But since we haven't done this in a little bit on the show, we used to always talk about our recent watches at the beginning of the episode, and we haven't done it lately because like usually it's a really, I mean, it's a packed show tonight, but
Exactly.
we we wanted to bring this up because we both saw Civil War, and thought we touched on it a little bit because we were both, as you know, listening to the show, we were both very excited, one to finally get a good movie after Dune, and we
Yeah.
were really excited for this one. I don't know if you've looked online or looked at any. I mean, this is a very divisive movie. It seems there are some people that absolutely love it, and there's some people that didn't. But it definitely has gotten people talking, and we haven't really talked much about our overall thoughts. I know you letterbox reviewed it, but what were
Yes.
your like what were your feelings about it? Did it live up to your expectations? Because I know you were really excited to see it as well.
Definitely. And yet, for the just to start off, it's also I think a big part of why we're not always chatting, or I guess why we wanted to chat Civil War in particular is because it's not every day that you see it, movies in theaters a lot more than I do. I hadn't been since Dune 1, or sorry, Dune 2 in early March. I'd seen it twice
Yeah,
in theaters. I haven't been there since. So it was nice to be back in the theater. But we're not always seeing the same new releases and having a chance to talk about it on the same episode. So couldn't miss
right.
this opportunity. And you're right, Civil War was a movie I was looking forward to. I was high on my list of most anticipated this year, if not near the very top. Um, Also happy to say, so my local theater finally got reclining chairs. They did some
Oh,
big
nice.
renovations that they've been working on over several months. So they took out a lot of seating, but implemented these big, spacious, automatically reclining seats. So that experience was so great. Happy for a movie that I was really anticipating to be the first time I get to enjoy that luxury movie watching experience. So felt kind of bougie. And I don't know if I don't really know much about the technology they have like on the screens or the sound system that they use at my theater, but this movie sounded and looked fantastic, especially with all the firefighting and just military stuff going on in this movie. But to answer, I guess the meat of your question and expectations, it was Civil War was one of those movies that, and I should know better as a film lover and a guy that's seen a million movies, to not really go in with expectations, especially with new releases. And yet, this was kind
Yeah,
of one of those movies that I kind of let my expectations get the better of me. I think I
yeah.
expected, but I'm not exactly going with this in the sense that I didn't like it or that it let me down. It didn't. It's just one of those movies that I think that rewatch is really going to. Now that I know what I'm going to get into next time I see it, I think I'm going to appreciate more about it next time. But I really enjoyed this movie through and through. It was directed really great. Cinematography was a standout. Even though I find some of the characters that we follow in the movie kind of one dimensional, I don't mean that as like an insult, if you know what I mean. Like I felt like
Right.
their characters were written that way and it was intelligent that they were written
Yeah,
that way. Like we follow Kirsten Dunst as a very, very jaded photo journalist, a war journalist, kind of
yeah.
tail end,
She's
late
like
career
she's
stage,
like numb
numb
to
to
all this.
everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And I thought that was actually a really great character trait of her. So it felt like she doesn't really have much to do beyond being the reluctant mentor who's jaded by decades of covering conflict.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of the other characters are, stuck in they have their one big trait, but I thought it really worked. So the performances were fantastic. I really thought Kaylee Spaney, who plays the Jessie, the girl who kind of idolizes Kirsten Dunst's character. My first time seeing her, I think. I know that she was in Priscilla last year.
Yeah.
But this, I think, was my first time seeing her act. I thought she was a standout.
She was really good.
Really, yeah. Kirsten Dunst was great. I haven't seen her lead anything in a long time.
Yeah.
Jesse Plemons stole the show for me in his one scene. It was my favorite scene of the movie. It was heavily featured in the trailers and the marketing for this movie, but did it ever hold up? And then I don't know if he's a newcomer. I think this guy acted in Narcos like a
Narcos, yeah,
decade ago, but Wagner Moura, if I'm saying his name right, I hope he played
yeah,
Joel, one of the other leads, stand out too. So all that being said, there's a lot of components in this movie I thought were really, really well done. But there's some decisions like it wasn't perfect for me. I rated it pretty highly and I enjoyed my watch, but there were some things that I think I respect Alex Garland how he wrote this movie. For those maybe that don't want any spoilers, might this part of the episode might be a good time to opt out. But I won't go into anything too deep. Guess feel free to say whatever you want to say when we get to what your thoughts are. But this movie, if you haven't heard by now, is very neutral in its depiction of the conflict, the civil war going on in the United States. And I think I was expecting it to more take a position, just given on
yeah,
how divided the states are right now. And to the movie's credit, it doesn't even mention either political party by name throughout. So you really aren't meant to, you know, take a side even. There's several characters in this movie that are fighting that don't even really
right,
know what side they're on, which I thought was pretty neat. But I guess I sort of expected there to be more of a message. I think the message at the end of the day is, you know, if something like this were to break out, and I think people are, I don't know if you've heard this, but I love to follow politics. I studied it in school. I still keep up with world news, and a lot of people will say, you know, the country has never been closer to a civil war since the actual one broke out in the 1860s.
yeah,
I think Alex Garland's message with this movie is, you know, if that were to happen, this is what we can expect, and it's brutal. And anybody that wants or says that they want conflict has clearly never experienced it because it is terrifying and brutal and harsh. And that is all very much on display in this movie. But I guess I expected more of a political stance with this movie that this movie
yeah,
did not deliver. And I respect it. I think there's a lot of restraint in that in the writing. Um, but I guess what I enjoyed about the movie was more behind the screen stuff. The production budget was 50 million. I think it looks like it was made for triple that. It was
yeah.
really,
It
really
looks
well filmed. The set and production design was fantastic. I mean, if it were to be up for any Oscars, I think it would be in those categories. Um, Maybe one other thing I just wanted to touch on too before I pass it over is this. I did think the soundtrack took me out of this movie a little bit. The sound editing
oh
and
really,
sound design is great, but there were some sequences
yeah,
of some battles and stuff where these I wasn't familiar with any of this actual songs in the soundtrack, so I don't know if there's some deeper meaning behind them. But they were kind of
yeah,
like soft, more like melancholic sort of songs that kind of contrasted the brutal violence and big epic military invasion scenes that we were seeing. I thought that was kind of just an interesting choice that didn't really work for me, but all in all, I think Alex Garland's 4 for 4 with the movies he's directed. I like all of them, and I would put
yeah,
this probably. I think I like them all like weirdly enough equally, with the exception of being Annihilation. I think I place that as like my clear favorite of his.
right.
But all that bullshit to say, I really enjoyed it. But what did you think of Civil War? Thank you for letting
I
me spin off
I don't know,
there.
man. Go ahead. I really enjoyed it. I think what I appreciated more about it was uh it felt like more of like a visceral kind of like it was a sensory kind of experience that like
Yeah, it's a
that
good way
kind
of
of I
putting
kind
it.
of felt.
Totally.
And I there are times where I felt a bit unnerved and uncomfortable, and I think that kind of that was
Yeah.
the intention. Um, it's interesting that you mentioned the comment about like a rewatch. So like what I like the movie and I thought it was really well made. I just think because of like how parts of it seem are so heavy, I was like, I wonder if I would be up for like watching it again anytime soon. Where it felt like like after it was over when we left the theater, like I still kind of felt like I had that movie like on me a little bit when
Yeah.
I came home and you know, in a positive way, like it did the job it was intended to do. But you also are seeing a lot of things that are like very uncomfortable to see and witness, and that was like uh that kind of stayed with me a bit, and I think that probably was the point. Uh, um,
Definitely.
and I based on like the trailers and stuff, I thought that the movie was gonna take a stance one way or the other. Um, but I agree with you. I kind of respect that they had restraint there and there wasn't. And I know that is upsetting some people who have seen it. They
Some
want they
people
thought
really
that
wanted that, right?
right, right.
Yeah.
They wanted
I've seen
that
that in comments.
a clear cut like message. This is the side the movie's on, that kind of thing, and he doesn't. This is really more about like these war journalists who are like trying to just capture these moments, and they don't, you don't really find out where they lean any at all either. That this is just like the job they're performing, and like that is like the experience you're supposed to. I think people were expecting more of like a political stance, and really the movie is just about these particular people who are capturing these particular moments, and what that kind of means overall, I guess, like at the end of the day. And
Absolutely.
I thought it was fine not taking a stance. I didn't need it to. But others might think it may not be brave to have taken a stance one way or the other. Like maybe he should have, but I
would have been brave
probably,
for sure. Would not have helped that movie financially to alienate half of its audience, probably.
I know it would have been even more divisive than it is now currently. So like, I think Alex Garland did himself some favors by not doing that. I mean, visually though, like Alex Garland is like just a really good filmmaker. Like the movie looks great. The sound design was great. I thought, like you said, I thought all the performances were really good. I saw Priscilla, and it was so weird though, because like I know she looks so different in like Gillespie and Priscilla compared to this. I mean, I know Priscilla like in the movie is like young in the movie, but like there was something that felt more mature about her in that movie. When I was watching this, I was like, oh, like it didn't even feel like the same girl I had watched in Priscilla at all. But I thought she was amazing. She had some really, really good moments. I just love watching the development of her character. Like you could tell like there's this earnest nature about her and things that she wants to do, and then there's certain things that she sees that she's not ready for, and then like anyone would react a certain way where she really wasn't ready to see some of that stuff. And I thought it was interesting too that like as the movie goes on, like her and Kirsten Dunst, they kind of like switch a bit where like she is now like in the trenches, like wanting to get all this stuff, and like the stuff towards the end with Kirsten Dunst, like it seemed like she was like finally less jaded and overwhelmed by everything that was kind of happening. And I thought that was interesting that because she's such a hard ass at the beginning, and then have that kind of if she finally is like becoming less numb to what she is seeing. And I thought that was really interesting.
I want to piggyback on that for something for a sec, because there's someone there's a comment that was left. I can't remember. It was a Instagram account I follow, and for anyone listening that wants to give the synagogue a follow on Instagram, super great account that posts just movie related stuff. And synagogue, CINEGOGUE. I think I've shouted them out before, but so there's a comment on here that said their opinion was disappointing. It said very little. Kirsten Dunst's arc didn't make sense. And somebody replies to it. A guy, his handle is chug.hugs. His response, I thought, it actually lent this perspective to me that I hadn't. I mean, I read this very soon after leaving the theater. I hadn't even really digested everything that I'd seen. But I want to share it with you and anybody listening that was interested, because I thought it was on the money and really helped me kind of like appreciate Kirsten Dunst's arc, because like you said, this is all tying into how you said that she kind of became less numb and more affected by everything as it went on, and yet she's supposed to be the jaded, experienced mentor figure that has done this for decades, and her character Lee Miller is renowned in the photojournalist world, and Kaylee Spaney's character actually knew who she was, and because she was famous and had looked up to her. But so the reply that Kirsten Dunst's arc didn't make any sense says it was a passing of the torch storyline, which is, definitely evident just by watching the movie. And then he goes on to say that Dunst started as the main character, but it quickly switched to Kaylee Spaney in the first firefight. Dunst said the only reason she shoots is to prevent it from happening in America, but since it's too late, she no longer has a purpose. Spaney's goal is to get the money shot, and she works hard to get it. Dunst's arc makes more sense when you realize she's already at the end of her arc in the first act. After that, she's just along for the ride. I thought that was a super cool perspective on this movie, and would help you, because you're right. It's the comment is totally right. It does kind of become Kaylee Spaney's show, and the person who's she's a very young girl, new to this, isn't really in the action, but when she's thrust into it, she doesn't hesitate. She's there for the money shots, and then we see how that ends up having a negative effect in the final moments of the film. I won't spoil it for those that haven't seen it yet, just because it's so new.
Yeah.
But super cool passing of the torch movie. It's a kind of a genre blend. I think this movie works as a road trip movie.
Yeah, it
It's
does.
definitely
Yeah.
obviously a war movie. What I think this movie is not, that I definitely thought it was going to be, was a political thriller. Politics
Yeah.
play virtually no role in this movie for a movie about American Civil War, which I thought was kind of
Yeah.
impressive.
It's just kind of on the surface, and that's it. Like, there's no
Yeah.
like, I was surprised that it didn't. I mean, but I wasn't mad that it didn't go that way. I mean, I
No, me
think
either. Just
if anything, it
interesting,
was
just
it was a
unexpected.
surprise. Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
was definitely a surprise. And I also thought it was really interesting and cool, like watching the scenes where like they're in battle, and then of course you have like you know like actual battles, and then you have them with their cameras and all they trying to get these pictures. And it was like the press. It was like the way it was shot is like the press has like their own weapons and those like in those
Right.
scenes where they're running in and out as they military people are running in and out too. But like it was just really cool to kind of see these two sides, like how they were kind of like you know the only difference is that their weapon is like a camera rather than guns. And I thought that was like really cool how he shot that and like put them. I mean, what I really appreciated was the in those scenes in particular, the kind of like you were in it really felt like you were in there with them, kind of like it was very
100%.
immersive, I guess. That's how I felt.
Immersive. Yeah, 100%.
I felt like I was there, and that is, I think that's why it kind of stayed with me a bit after it was over. And yeah, and everyone, I don't want to just like, and everyone's talked about the scene. I won't go into detail about it, but the Jesse Plemons scene
Oh, man.
was single-handedly probably the best scene in the movie. It's very uncomfortable though.
Yeah, very dark.
It was interesting, like, and of course you're supposed to be quiet in the movie, right? But like it was like and we were in a very packed theater. The silence was like deafening during that sequence. Like it
There
was
was
like you
no
tell like
background noise,
and then
no
you can just
score.
right, and you can just honestly tell with like the people sitting in the theater that they were all like they all felt that uncomfortable, like everyone got uncomfortable. And I like even in like the way people were kind of shifting in their seats, but it was an amazing scene. I know he got put in this last minute because the actor dropped out, and Kirsten Dunst was like, "Oh, let's see if Jesse wants to do it," because they're married in
Her
real
real life
life.
husband. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And what a powerful just one scene for him. But
Steel.
I mean, honestly, like everyone is very effective in the scene. Like but he was downright fucking scary. I
Yes, he
thought.
was.
And it's a really powerful scene. Everyone's talking about it. Like I know that it feels maybe not like we were all like picking like this one particular scene to kind of dissect and talk about, but it is a really just a strong pivotal moment in the movie. And yeah, I was blown away by a lot of it, but that scene was like that was like
I actually
like, I don't know
found
how.
myself unaware of my own like reaction to. I kind of came to like towards the end of the scene, and my hands were kind of like up, almost like in a defensive posture, and I was like so glued to the screen, I wasn't even aware what I was doing, but I was so tensed up during that scene more than any other. And there's several intense scenes, but I felt like the stakes were highest in the movie at that point, and it kind of comes in like a little bit after the halfway point. So it's kind of funny that that's like, but just such a powerful scene, like you said, and one that I think will stand up as like one of the better parts of 2024's like scenes in general. I'll be looking back at that later in the year too, and just kind of reminiscing about how it was. And I can't wait to see that again, just once I get my hands on a physical copy of this movie.
Yeah,
because that was a highlight, I think, of just cinema in general for me this year. That scene was fantastic and super like just intense. Can't say anything more about it that hasn't been said already. It's been picked apart, but yeah, super great, worth seeing alone for Jesse Plemons.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think Alex Garland hasn't made a bad movie yet.
No, he's on a roll for sure.
I know some people have had issues with Men, and what's interesting is that everyone's really dissecting all of his movies now. That this always really happens when like a director like that comes out with a new film, and everyone is looking back like that. It seems like Men is the most divisive of his movies,
for sure.
But I still think it's good. I think it's solid. Annihilation is my favorite of the bunch.
I agree.
But he's a really good filmmaker, and at least like he's doing something different and exciting, and
Yeah.
I mean, we need more filmmaker minds like that
All
in
of
the
his
business. So
movies have been made with A24 as well, too. He's one of their golden
yeah,
boys.
yep. And we will talk a little bit more about Civil War later when we talk about box
Yes.
office.
With that out of the way, we have a lot to get through. So feel
Yeah,
free to pick something and dive right in. We got to get through a lot of stuff.
A lot of news. And guys, like, we have our little list so we can like actually keep track of what we're going to be talking about. It makes things a lot easier for us. But yeah, it looks a little daunting, but I think we're going to be able to do it. Let's see. I will go with. So this made a lot of people upset, and then this is usually because like some people don't like read up on like comic book backstory stuff before they get all like butthurt and angry about casting. So Julia Garner is at as you know, she's on Ozark, scene stealer on Ozark.
She won 3 Emmys at 4
Very very great.
seasons in that show. I've actually wrapped up
Yeah,
Ozark now.
amazing. Nice.
Yeah, just
What
finished
did you think?
the show. Me and my girlfriend watched it. Did you? First of all, before I get there, did you see the show? Did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know
I
what you
love that
felt
show.
about the. I loved it until season 4, and then it completely derailed for me.
Oh,
But
fell off
she
for you?
was fell off for me. I've never been so disappointed by a season finale. I don't think ever in my life, or a series finale, I guess, other than maybe Game of Thrones season 8. But I think they're very close. Like I'm still not over
Oh
it.
man.
But Julia
Oh
Garner
man.
is a standout throughout the whole show. She's great.
I don't know, man. Dexter is chilling in the wings.
Dexter's
That last episode was hot garbage.
Dexter's
It almost ruined
tough
like
as
the whole
well.
show for me.
I can't wait. We should have chat Ozark some other time off screen though, because I want to
Yeah,
pick
for
your
sure.
brain. But yes, Julia Garner.
Yeah, fantastic actress, and she is cast in Fantastic Four, playing the Silver Surfer, but not exactly as we know the Silver Surfer. In the comic books. She's going to be playing Shalabal, a version of Silver Surfer from the comics. The character was a lover of Norrin Radd, the Silver Surfer, and she basically picks up his like powers and stuff like that. So she's not playing like the Silver Surfer as we know him.
Just a different version, sort of thing.
Yeah, like so if you just go like a lot of angry dudes posted a lot of angry videos, very upset that they cast a woman as a Silver Surfer.
Right.
I know. They just have to do a little research and read so they don't get too upset. I mean, other people were aware that this is a different version of the Silver Surfer, and they thought it was a mistake to go that route. And
that's my camp. Like,
and not pick the actual Silver Surfer. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Sorry, I got ahead of you there.
Okay, how do you feel about that?
I'm just like, why we already have an on-screen depiction of the Silver Surfer. Like, of all the things, the baddies that we could face that have this new Fantastic Four team face, like, why are we rehashing that? It's not so much that it's that depiction of the Silver Surfer, and I would even like to see Julia Garner in this movie. I just don't think that is like, the most convincing, crowd drawing villain for the Fantastic Four team to go up against. Also, correct me if I'm wrong. Have you heard anything about? I just kind of heard the other day that this is going to be like a standalone. It's not an MCU entry. It's like separate from the MCU. Is that true?
It's a part of the MCU, but I think it's supposed to be more of a standalone story. Rather than like how the rest of them have been like more of like a connective tissue. Like this leads to this. I think they're trying to make it a bit more of a standalone.
I like that. That's a step in the right direction, if you ask me.
There's also like potential, and I mean, I don't want to. It hasn't come out yet, and we don't know. But I mean, it already feels like a packed movie with the 4 that we have with Fantastic Four. You have Julia Garner. I heard that we are probably going to get a Doctor Doom and a Galactus, which would make this movie even more.
Holy, that's too many.
Would make it even more packed. I mean, it feels like a little too much for like bringing the Fantastic Four into the MCU, but. I don't know. It feels a little stuffed, but I mean, I do like the vibe that it's supposed to be around like a 60s. It's supposed to be like a period movie, what I thought was really cool. But yeah, I have no issues with her being cast. But I kind of see what you're saying. Where like there's also, I guess, if you're going to use a Silver Surfer, like why not use the one that people are familiar with it, but also you're like, hey, I guess they've done it, but like they did it when Fox owned it, so they
Right.
I guess this will be different. But yeah, my issue isn't so much her. I think she's a great actress. I just feel like they basically said they're still, like I said, they're gonna fit in those other 2 characters too. It just seems like it's a really stuffed movie.
Yeah, I don't I don't love what I'm seeing from that yet. I think the best bit of news for this movie so far is that it's supposedly trying to be a standalone entry because I think there's
Yeah,
just too much uh just messy junk going on in that series that I think this will be benefit by just kind of being a step back and a movie you don't have to do a bunch of homework on to watch.
yeah,
And I like the 60s timeline too. I think that'll be a draw. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think you're right. Yeah, they're floating with too much of a crowded, character.
yeah,
I don't even know what term I'm looking for here, but too many. It's going to be a crowded room. I think if they do try and tie in those two other significant villains, especially if they want to make a sequel to this, you can save characters for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, I'm not mad that it's a girl. I mean, that's good
No.
because there was a lot of angry fanboys that were upset about that, and I'm sure they have their reasons for being angry.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Here's something to
Um,
be angry about.
yeah, very much so.
Another fucking Matrix movie is being made, and we were just kind of pining over this not that long ago. So Matrix 5 is supposedly in development
Yeah,
from Warner Bros. Right, and this is 2.5 years after the Matrix Resurrections came out in around Christmas time 2021. That movie didn't even make money. It
yeah, it
lost like
flopped.
several $1 million. I don't understand how this is decided to be a good move. Like you
Yeah,
said, Warner Brothers likes to milk their IPs. Totally true, but like when they're profitable, makes sense.
yeah, I agree. And and they were Warner Brothers was like really. I was surprised they didn't announce this on the 25th anniversary of the Matrix. They waited until like a few days after to announce the news that this was coming. The only upside, and this is a very slim upside. Drew Goddard is the one that's going to write and direct it. I actually like him as a writer, and I mean he worked on Cloverfield, The Martian. He got an Academy Award nomination for The Martian. He did a lot of work in TV. That's how he got his start. He worked on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Lost, Daredevil, Alias. So he has like a good
Yeah,
pedigree. And, he also worked on like Cabin in the Woods. So like, there's a lot of he's got a lot of goodwill, I think. My problem, and apparently he came to them with a really good idea, and that's why they're going with it. I mentioned this offline though. I told you I think The Matrix is one really good sci-fi movie, one off, and then it made a
right.
lot of money, and then they milked it for sequels that I don't think that was a movie that was begging to be a franchise at all. First one made a lot of money, and then that's why they made
And it was popular, yeah, for
three more.
sure.
Yeah. So I like Drew Goddard, but I'm just not excited for another one of these. I just think that
Is anybody like nobody showed up for the new Matrix in 2021? I mean, yeah, it made 100. Let's see here. Made some. I mean, it made box office dollars. It didn't make a profit though, which I'm just
right.
like, I don't understand. This is on all accounts a losing battle for Warner Brothers, like on paper. So I just find that super, super odd. I think this is going to be a total waste of Drew Goddard's talent.
Yeah.
Um, I guess, probably a hefty sum thrown his way.
Um,
But yeah, just a series that is just begging to be put down and just won't be. I even that fourth movie was just from out of left field. Yeah, okay, gross 157 million. The
Worldwide.
worldwide box office on $190 million budget. That's a deficit of $32 million and change. Like that is
Yeah.
just insane to me.
And let's see if you buy this. Jesse Ehrman, who is the Warner Brother Motion Pictures president of production, he said this about the new Matrix movie. He said, Drew came to Warner Brothers with a new idea that we all believe would be an incredible way to continue the Matrix role by both honoring what Lana and Lily began over 25 years ago and offering a unique perspective based on his own love of the series and characters. The entire team at Warner Brothers Discovery is thrilled for Drew to be making this new Matrix film, adding his vision to the cinematic canon that the Wachowskis spent a quarter of a century building here at the studio. Um, it, I still don't care.
Yeah, that means
uh,
nothing to me. I don't buy any
yeah,
of that. Like, yeah, sure, I believe that Drew Goddard has an idea that he pitched to Warner Brothers, but I think they're just seeing dollar signs when they should be seeing, a garbage can. I don't understand why. Like,
garbage can.
can't toss that out. I feel this
Yeah,
is to be just a destined to be scrapped for a tax write off. I don't see that. I don't even buy that we're even going to get this.
Well, Warner Brothers is good for that. So
Yeah,
if
exactly.
they
That's
decide
why
to
I
do it.
say that 100%.
But yeah, I think you can hear that we are not incredibly enthused. Like I said, I do like Drew Goddard. I will put that out there again, but
For sure.
that might not be enough though for me to be like, oh, let's get back into. There's not much world to explore, and like I said, you only wanted to explore more world because like the first one made a lot of money, so you were like, yeah, we'll figure something out. Like the second one, from what I remember, it has some great action sequences, but it's not nearly as good as the first one. The third one is really bad. It's just like really slow and really boring. And the last one I didn't enjoy at all. So I am not on the
No,
Matrix
I've
camp
only seen the
at all.
first one. I'm not really interested in any of the others.
Yeah.
So not really. No. Um,
What we got next?
and next we got so the I'm assuming this is the DC Universe Supergirl
Yeah.
movie has a director now in Craig Gillespie, who has a very very diverse body of work. He's directed well, most recently he did Dumb Money last year in 2023. He did a few episodes of the Pam and Tommy miniseries from 2022. He directed Cruella a few years ago.
Yeah,
I,
Tanya.
Tanya, which I haven't seen, but I really want to. That got Margot an Oscar nomination.
Yeah, and Larson, the real girl.
Oh, nice.
His filmography is interesting, and
And you got the Fright
very
Night remake in there.
yeah. Oh, I actually like that one.
Oh yeah,
I
no, I
forgot
never
about it.
seen.
I like that. I think it's a really inspired choice, and I actually, it's interesting because some people were like surprised that they didn't. I mean, a woman is writing the movie, but they were surprised that they didn't pick a female director. But it seems like if you look at like I, Tanya or Cruella, that story would be in good hands with him though. Like he seems to I think that's why they picked him to probably work in kind of like correlation with the female writer of it, and it wouldn't be just like a man telling this kind of
Right.
female driven story. And I'm not saying that like a woman needs to direct a movie about Supergirl, but at first I was surprised that they didn't go that route, but then I was like, oh well, based on his like filmography, it seems like the right choice
Mm-hmm.
for what they're attempting to do. Um, Again, a lot of this like DCU stuff that we cover is like this is all stuff that's like in development, like picking directors, picking writers. It's hard to get too excited about what is happening because we haven't seen anything yet from him. I know, like, I think we'll get Superman first before
Right.
Supergirl, and I think she's supposed to appear in Superman in some capacity as an introduction
Okay.
to the character.
Would be a good idea.
But I really do think it was an inspired choice to pick him. I've actually, all the movies that he's done that I've seen, I've enjoyed. So
Nice.
I'm pretty okay. I'm pretty okay
And
with him.
Yeah, and we've got House of the Dragon breakout star Amelia Alcock in the lead role. She was just cast, I think, a few months ago. We covered that on an earlier episode. Excited to see what she does with the role. She'll probably be in that for a while. And she, actually, no, she's done now in House of the Dragon. She will no longer be in season 2 unless they have some flashback sequences. But she was really great in that first season of that show. So I'm on board with her being cast. I think she's pretty good. And that movie's in pre-production. I don't think there's a release date yet, which I think they're not following Marvel's footsteps with meeting those targets before they really have things, the boots on the ground, are they?
I do like the whole, like, it seems like they're taking their time, which is what they didn't do before. Like as
learning from their mistakes.
You remember seeing from some of the other like DCEU movies, it was just like it felt like they were just trying to catch up to Marvel, and like that wasn't the best move. And I do at least like that there seems to be some time being taken to develop. I mean, I trust James Gunn enough to like kind of spearhead it. But again, we've been burned a lot by the DC stuff, so I'm still a little leery about what could happen. But I do think it's a great choice as a director for that particular project, though. So not going to get too many complaints from me. On other news, we have some release dates. In case you didn't know, there is a Toy Story 5 coming out. It will be released on June 19th, 2025. I don't know why we need another one. I don't not saying we need
a fourth.
No, and by the way, they got lucky because all 4 of them are good, and that 4th one we didn't need it. Like the 3rd movie is a perfect end to that story, and I was like, when the 4th one came out, I was like, this is unnecessary. But then it was actually pretty decent. I was like, all right, you guys got lucky.
Then we got Lightyear.
And then like, don't milk it, guys, but they're gonna milk it. So it'll be out June 19th, 2025. They also dated Mandalorian and Grogu. That's gonna come out on May 22nd, 2026. Interesting enough that this will be the first Star Wars movie since Solo, a Star Wars story, to open over Memorial Day weekend, but that did not work out for Solo when that opened over Memorial Day weekend.
First one I think
So
that lost them money, if I recall.
yeah. But I mean, John Favreau's behind this one, so they probably are a little bit
Okay.
more confident in it. And if you care, Dwayne Johnson's live action remake of Moana has been pushed a year, moving from June 27, 2025 to July 10th, 2026.
So it's a live action remake, not a sequel?
Yeah, there's a live action remake. Yeah. And then they are releasing an animated Moana 2 that comes out in November. They said that they pushed the live action one to create more space between the animated sequel and
I
the
mean,
live action.
what do you think about that? Does that even matter when it's a year apart?
Yeah, I don't. I feel like that was just a very studio excuse because it's not, maybe it's not quite ready, or like they're not quite, whatever development stage is in is not like too far enough where they felt comfortable releasing when they were going to release it. That's what I kind of feel the situation is. Like, no one really cares about, like, oh, well, thank God they created distance between Moana 2 and the live action. I don't think anyone would really care.
What do you think about a live action remake of an only 10-year-old animated film?
Disney's going to Disney. That's how I feel about that.
My God, I hate them so much, man. Like, my God, they drive me nuts.
That's how I feel about that. And
they're a studio that just gets under my skin when they do shit like that. And just so lazy, but whatever. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I've never seen Moana, but from what I gather, it's very beloved of their recent animated movies. It was kind of like, it seems like it came at the tail end of their like sweet spot in like the 2010s with, still some original content. And I honestly, I'm not one to really, I don't seek out a lot of Disney's animated stuff. But I would not be opposed to watching that. It would be a movie I think I could enjoy watching if I tried to. If I was in a situation to watch it, I wouldn't ever be opposed. It actually seems, and from the songs I've heard, they do sound quite catchy. I actually think Dwayne Johnson has a pretty decent singing voice in the songs I've heard from it.
That was the live action shock for me.
Yeah, right.
Shock for me was that he actually could carry a bit of a tune. I was like, all right, cool.
But the live action part, I'm just like, I don't know who's asking
so
for
unnecessary.
That. Yeah.
No one really.
Disney's gonna Disney. You're totally
right. But something we can get excited about is we have some trailers to talk about, and one that we were really we kept going like, "Where's the MaXXXine trailer? Where's the MaXXXine trailer?"
Finally have something,
and we finally got it. I watched the trailer online when they debuted it, and then I don't know if it played ahead of Civil War as well when I saw Civil War in theaters. So it was cool to see it in theaters. What did you think of the first look at it?
So full disclosure, I don't know. I can't remember how much we've really talked about X or Pearl on the show. Big fan of both of those. And MaXXXine looks like it's hitting this one out of the park. It looks even bigger and bolder than those other two. Different sort of, I love the 80s aesthetic and vibe to the trailer. It was fantastic. Two things that I really did not expect this movie to really feature, but I'm super intrigued that they are, is that this story seems to be running parallel to the infamous Night Stalker killing spree, which has a great Netflix documentary.
Scary as fuck.
Yeah, and the whole Bates Motel, like, come on, that was such a left field curveball. I am so here for. I don't know how they're going to tie that into the story, but I think that is so cool.
Yeah.
I've never heard of. I can't think of any examples of movies kind of shouting out other movies like that. I guess because it takes place in Hollywood and she's trying to be a film star. That kind of makes sense, but we get to look at the Bates Motel house and motel itself in the trailer. I think it looks fantastic. Looks like it's going to be a bunch of gory fun. The cast is literally stacked in this movie. I know we've covered it before, but so much to look forward to in that movie. But what did you think of the trailer?
I really love the trailer. I was excited that we finally got it. I actually think the story running parallel with like the Night Stalker stuff is really interesting. I know some people are hoping that is not exactly what it seems like.
I guess I can see that.
I like hoping there might be like a little misdirection there, and that would be. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there was. But I also think it's kind of cool that they're running that kind of parallel with the story, and I've kind of been interested to see how they really uh use it overall. I think it looks great visually from what we've seen. And I know we talked a little bit about X and Pearl. I actually love both of them as well. Love that we kind of got this random trilogy out of nowhere just based on the
Yeah.
fact that, like, you know, Ty West and like Mia Goth are just having discussions while making X. Like, okay, like where can we like just really like organically talking about where can we take this? And that's how Pearl happened, and that's how MaXXXine happened. It was just like conversations on the set of X that let's
Mhm.
expand this. And I think that's really cool. And like so far, I mean, 2 for 2. And then this looks like this might be like a a good conclusion. I'm assuming conclusion to this
Who
story.
knows?
I know, but
Yeah.
I love the whole like the 80s vibe too. I just love the whole like look of the trailer, the whole like I just loved
Yeah.
everything about it. I thought it was really good. I'm excited to see it. And I was surprised that really ballsy weekend. Like I feel like they really think that they have like it could be a big hit. It opens on July 5th uh
Oh wow,
of
it's not
this
far
year.
away.
So it's in like the heart of summer where like usually they put big movies right there. So they must have think that there's potential for it to break out even more than like X or Pearl did. So um I do like the vote of confidence from A24, like positioning it there. Uh
Mm.
so yeah, I
Will
thought
will will you be rewatching either X or Pearl in
yeah,
anticipation? Yeah. I think I've
definitely
seen
yeah, no,
seen them both twice. I don't know that I need to rewatch either, but I might get X in again just because it's the
uh
most chronological.
did you have a preference of the two?
You know what? I think I rated Pearl higher in my 2022 release like ranking, but it kind of flip flops. I like them both for different reasons. There's qualities of both I really enjoy, but I think Pearl
No.
is like the slightly better film. But
Yeah.
they're both fantastic. And again, I'm just super on board with this unexpected trilogy that we're getting. And MaXXXine looks like it could take the cake, honestly, from this trailer.
Yeah. I think so
Yeah.
too. I think Pearl is a better film. I get more entertainment value out of X, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh
100%. But like Mia Goth's performance in Pearl to me is like really the bread and
yeah,
butter of those two.
yeah. And she
Yeah.
looks like she's gonna be great in this too. So like I'm looking forward to it. And like we said, it opens on July 5th of
Nice.
this year. Um, so we have another trailer for a little movie called Fly Me to the Moon. After Jackson watched the trailer, he just says like, "Oh, that looked very
On
Hollywood."
camera. Yeah.
Yeah. It it's Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson are in it, which is I've never thought of like potential pairings. Like I've never would have guessed they would be in a movie together, but like that is
They're in the Coens Hail Caesar together. I don't know if they
that's
share
right.
any
Forgot about
scenes,
that.
but they are both in that. I can't remember if they're featured together, but they are both in
I
that.
totally forgot about that. It's directed by Greg Berlanti. According to the synopsis, the film will take place in the 1960s during the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union, and it looks like this is kind of like a period kind of rom-com-y kind of sweet little movie, I guess.
Mm.
Too, which I guess the rom-com is making a little bit of a comeback after Anyone But You. But yeah, in addition to Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum, Jim Rash is also in the movie, Ray Romano and Woody Harrelson. I don't know. I thought it looked cute, I guess.
Cute is a
I
good
mean,
way of putting it for sure.
um, and they look like they have like good chemistry. Just judging from the trailer. Um, I'm not. I full disclosure, I probably won't be like rushing out to go see it, but
No,
yeah,
it's
it
it's
is
a
an Apple movie as well, so
oh right.
it's coming out in theaters, but it'll eventually be on Apple TV Plus, and I probably might wait until it goes there. I
I
can't
think
see
the
myself.
story it's telling looks intriguing, but like the whole lighthearted comedic approach to it, and the very Hollywood feel to it, I is what's going to keep me away from this one. I think I wasn't really impressed with the trailer. I'm looking too at Greg Berlanti and his works. He hasn't directed anything since 2018's Love, Simon, which I haven't seen, but
Great, great movie. It's a really good movie.
he has, however, a lot of writing credits on a lot of the
Like
Arrowverse,
TV, yeah,
yeah,
TV, yeah.
TV stuff, and Dawson's
He
Creek
is the
too.
yeah. Back in the day, he actually for a lot of people that love Dawson's Creek, he kind of shook up relationships on that show and made the show interesting when the show was kind of falling off in like its third season. He was like, you know what, we're gonna break up Dawson and Joey, and we're gonna do Joey and Pacey. And everyone was like, see, that's how it should have been from the start. So like he gets a lot of credit for like rejuvenating that show when like it, you know, a teen show tells a lot of stories, and you know, it's hard to like for them to stay relevant and cool, but like he got a lot of credit for at least giving that show a little bit more juice when he put Joey and Pacey together. But yeah, he is the Arrowverse guy, and and Love Simon's a great film as well. Like I said, I don't think this doesn't look bad by any means. I can't see myself rushing out to go see it.
Not. I like who's in it. I just doesn't feel like something I will really go to my way to watch. But something I definitely will be going out to watch, and a trailer that I was super excited to cover, and that I totally took me by surprise. I'm still, there's some aspects of this movie that I'm not sure how it's going to go yet, but the Joker 2 trailer we finally got to look at, and I know this came out the week prior, but we didn't do a news episode, so finally chatting that. Man, there was a lot to love in that trailer. What did you think?
I think it looks visually just really, that's what I was taken with. Like visually, it looks amazing.
Definitely.
And I'm still, like I said, when we were talking about like our anticipated movies for the year, I'm just intrigued by what they're going to do with it. I mean, that's the best way I can put it. Cause I still, this, it didn't really sell the musical part of it, I guess. We don't see them singing in the trailer. I don't think it necessarily like it's hiding that it's a musical. It looks very like just the look of it. It looks like it is like kind of like it's getting off that vibe, at least visually. But there are some people that are like, hey, we wish we could have seen them at least sing in the trailer and like give that. Maybe they just want to hold on to like some of those money shots, money sounds for later.
I think we're gonna get another trailer at some point.
Yeah, and I know there is also some complaints that I wanted to ask you. From what I can tell in the trailer, Lady Gaga is not really playing like Harley Quinn the way that a lot of people are like accustomed to, at least based on like the stuff she has in the trailer. They're used to the whole like the cartoon version and the Margot Robbie version with the whole like Mr. J and all that stuff, like very like animated. And that is how the character started on Batman the Animated Series, and that's how Margot Robbie played her in Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey, and the Suicide Squad.
Right.
But I don't think that Lady Gaga should be judged too harshly yet for playing it different and not playing it like we're expecting her to play, I guess.
Exactly. Well, even this iteration of the Joker is different than we've really seen,
exactly.
At least in live action. Right. So can only make sense that we're going to get a different interpretation of Harley Quinn. This is also, again, I don't know how this constitutes a teaser trailer. The thing was like 2.5 minutes. This is the first look. Yeah, it was a long 2.5 minute teaser. But this is just our first look. We really have no idea, not to mention how much of an unreliable narrator the Joker is. I don't even know what we're seeing in this trailer is going to be reality and what's going to be in his head. So who's to say what?
That's what I was wondering, man. I was like, how much of this is like real, or how much of this is just playing out, in his mind, her mind. Like,
I have a feeling most of what we saw is going to be hallucinations and all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
which I'm super on board for.
But again, I when I say I'm intrigued in a very good way. I really am like so curious to see like what they're going to do with it. But I can already tell. Like, I feel like this is going to be another one that's divisive. I think people are the expectations versus what they think they're going to get is probably going to be one of the biggest fights on the internet when it comes to this Joker sequel. Because I know everyone's not all in on the musical thing at all. So again, though, I give it credit for like taking a chance and doing something interesting and different. So I still think it looks interesting, and I still want to see it. I also, again, visually just looks very strong. Like it.
How about that?
There were some cool shots in that trailer. Yeah,
the final shot with the lipstick smiley face and he moves over. That was a amazing shot. And I guess we will see for ourselves how everything plays out on October the 4th when this movie is released. Definitely jumped up a little higher on my anticipated list. I am very excited to see how this all goes down.
Yep. Now this next trailer, I I want to implore people, if you haven't seen the original Speak No Evil, which actually isn't old at all. It came out in
2022.
2022. It's actually a really solid horror movie. Probably one of the most uncomfortable horror movies I've watched like in a really long time. And a lot
Dutch,
of
right?
and don't be afraid of it because like a lot of it is in English. It's like you should watch it. It's on Shudder if you haven't seen it. Um,
I have not.
I was not down for this American remake because I was like the original came out in 2022. It's not even that old. I know there's like an excuse there being like, well, American audiences aren't gonna seek this out, which is why we're remaking it for the American audience. Sure, I guess. I will if you guys haven't watched this trailer, it's weird that we're talking about it, but I would advise you one, don't watch it because it gives away a lot, and it gives if you haven't seen the original movie, it gives away a lot of what happens in that original movie, and that there are so many cool surprises in the original that make that movie so uncomfortable. And but this trailer just spelled everything out.
Yeah.
And the upside is James McAvoy's in it, and James McAvoy is a good actor, so I at least there's that.
Yeah.
But it's also coming from Blumhouse, and they haven't had a good track record lately.
No,
After
this is not going to
Imaginary and
change
Night
that.
Swim. You you thumbs down as soon as I brought up the trailer. Is it more so because like they're remaking it so soon, and like why are you even remaking something that's only like a couple years old?
Exactly. It is totally hijacking, you know, what will inevitably be a more intelligent, better crafted foreign horror movie because, again, Hollywood and its big studios are creatively bankrupt. If I had $1 for every time I said that,
yeah,
I'd be rich. But this is, you know, at least in its defense, it is by no means the first, second, or 100th, you know, American movie to do this, rip off, you know, a great foreign horror movie. I actually wasn't even really impressed with the trailer. I agree with you. It gives away far too much. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people that just couldn't contain my curiosity and read up on Speak No Evil. So I kind of know a lot about the movie.
yeah.
But that being said, I can, you know, the things I didn't really know, I can definitely put together from this trailer because it gives away so much. I honestly thought I wasn't really that impressed with James McAvoy, his acting and what I saw from this trailer. It's like, I don't know. It didn't sell me. Partly, I don't think that's his fault. I just think it's what this movie's doing, and it just shows far too much. I can't remember who's doing it, but there's just nothing about this movie that I think is a good idea.
James Watkins is directing it. I would have to look him up. I haven't even heard of the guy. Let's see if he's done anything noteworthy.
He okay. I got a really big soft spot. He directed the Woman in Black. Eden Lake. Yeah, I was gonna say that first. I watched that a few months ago for the first time and really, really liked it.
All right. Well, are you sold now?
No. Good director to be doing this, but I don't like. I just would rather him just make something original or adapt something, not remake a 2-year-old foreign movie. But
yeah, and for those that don't know, when an American family is invited to spend the weekend at the idyllic country estate of a charming British family they befriended on vacation, what begins as a dream holiday soon wraps into a snarled psychological nightmare. Again, the original's on Shudder. It's really good. You guys should check it out. When I first saw it, I was so blown away by how uncomfortable it made me. And it also is like one of those things like it feels like it could happen, and I think that's what also makes it kind of you go on vacation and meet another couple and they seem cool, and like your first encounter with them is like, oh, that's nice, and then it's like spirals from there. So like it's very much like it could very well feels like it could happen, but it gives away too much. It comes out September 13th though. I mean, I'm sure Blumhouse will make money off of it, but if anything, I hope it makes more people seek out the original movie.
Exactly, which I will definitely be doing here, maybe around spooky season, maybe before, but I definitely am interested in. And it has a sequel too, doesn't it? Or there's a sequel in development to the original.
I think in development, yeah.
Yeah, which is cool. Called I don't know
which means like which means that Blumhouse might milk that and remake it. We'll
Yeah,
see.
wouldn't put it past
Uh,
him.
will not put it past him. All right. And more positive news. Haley Steinfeld is the latest addition to the untitled Ryan Coogler supernatural thriller that we don't really quite know what it's about yet, but everyone in Hollywood was like so stoked on it. Warner Brothers ended up winning the bidding war for it.
Ugh,
Uh, but every
of all
but every
studios.
I know every studio was super excited with what Ryan Coogler is doing. We know that it's going to star Michael B. Jordan. Haley Steinfeld will be starring opposite him, I think, as one of the female leads. And then Delroy Lindo is also in this movie. Jack O'Connell, you may remember him from Midsommar. He's going to be in this as well. We still don't know exactly what the movie is about, but we know that it's supposed to shoot in New Orleans soon. They believe that it might be a vampire movie that is set during the Jim Crow era South.
Ooh.
So it says it rumored to involve both vampires and Southern supernatural tradition. Other rumored leaks include Michael B. Jordan might be playing dual roles as twin brothers, and that Jack O'Connell might be playing one of the racist antagonists in the movie. I mean, I love that it's so like shrouded in mystery that like it's kind of like, what is this really cool idea? And I think Ryan Coogler is a great filmmaker, and he seems to really gel well when he works with Michael B. Jordan. So I'm excited for it. And I also love Haley Steinfeld. I think she's a great actress too. That's another solid addition to it. I mean, like I know it's hard to be excited about the movie because we don't really know much about it, but
if that elevator pitch about it being a vampire movie in the Jim Crow South is to be believed, then I think that's a super intriguing plot of a movie. I would like to see that.
Yeah.
For me, I'm like hit or miss with Ryan Coogler, so I like him when he's with Michael B. Jordan. I like Creed and Fruitvale Station. I'm not, again, just not being much of an MCU guy. I've never seen Wakanda Forever, and I didn't care for Black Panther, so. But that I'm not going to judge his career just on those. So I think I like that this is a departure from that, and I'm totally down with Ryan Coogler original movie. So especially if it's a horror, I think it's a cool direction to see him work on. So yeah, I'm kind of excited from what I hear from it, and I love Jack O'Connell too, Michael B. Jordan, big fan of too. Haley Steinfeld, I've not seen a whole lot, but I think she's definitely made a name for herself as a young Hollywood talent. So, cast is looking like it's shaping up. I would definitely be on board. And this one's slated for 2025, right?
Yeah. And
so still a ways away.
Yep. And I honestly, even though we keep saying like, oh, we don't know much about it, I wish more movies kind of stayed a little bit shrouded in mystery like this to kind of build like anticipation where they don't give away every plot detail.
Like the days of old, eh?
Yeah, sometimes you just have like the talent involved is enough of a pitch for me to be like, all right, I picking up what they're putting down. I love the stuff that they've done together so far. That could just be enough, and not having to give away every detail. But yeah, I do like the cast so far, so I'm intrigued. And like you said, I'm intrigued by the elevator pitch too. It sounds like it'd be interesting if it goes in that direction.
Totally. Next for the IPs for Blumhouse to ruin is the Blair Witch. They have a Blair Witch movie in development. That I'm sure they're going to fuck up. I think there was an interview with one of the original stars he was kind of like,
he was not happy. Joshua Leonard, he actually posted a very lengthy Instagram post about like,
okay, not an interview then, but a post.
Okay. But very like upset. One, I guess, because those three that were in the original movie, they got screwed over a lot, at least financially. Like I think in one part of that post, he said Mike, the other guy in the movie, while that movie was still like in theaters and making money, they weren't really making money, and like he was working at a furniture store while that movie was like making a ton of cash back in 1999.
Wow.
And their likeness was used. I mean, it was used all over the place. I know there was an issue like saying like basically the studio that released Blair Witch was trying to say that they own the right to their names and likeness, even though they're like, hey, no, this is my actual, like, I'm playing myself. So like there was this whole debate about like, basically the bottom line of them getting paid what they should have been paid for a movie that became one of the highest grossing independent movies of all time. It clearly made over like $200 million on a very, very, very small budget.
Wow.
And full disclosure, I actually want to cover that movie for its 25th anniversary in July. I don't love it, but I do want to cover it because I think it'd be interesting to look back on it, because what I think that movie did well, and it deserves all the credit for. And I wish you could have seen what it was like in 1999.
I
They
know.
ha-
Would have been so cool.
they had all of us convinced that this was real. Like the way they marketed it was so. I think it's a much better marketing campaign than the film itself. But
Right.
the marketing itself was legitimately scary. Like they actually made a whole like documentary about like like Burkittsville and them going missing that looks real. And I know it's so, and everyone's like, "Are you sure people really thought that?" I was like, asking your friends that were old enough to remember in 1999 if many of us thought the Blair Witch Project was real, and we will all say at least all up to the opening weekend we thought it was. And I think that was a very smart, effective thing to do. It just like I don't really love it entirely as a film. It's a really cool, I guess, experiment. And then
For sure.
for better or worse, they kind of kicked off the whole found footage
Right.
craze. The sequel is hot garbage. Now I will say Blair Witch, the Adam Wingard one,
Okay, I thought that's what you meant for a sec, but I forgot there was a Blair Witch more direct sequel.
Sorry, yeah, Book of Shadows. I mean, people seem to like
that's shit.
every movie that like was bad back in the day. Now there's like fans of Book of Shadows, like, okay, whatever, it's not good. But Blair Witch is good. I actually did like that, and
yeah, me too. I have it up right now. I'll probably rewatch it if we do cover Blair Witch in July, which I'm surprised that you're and happy that you want to cover, because I would be down for a rewatch that. So I like that.
I haven't watched it I haven't watched the Blair Witch Project in a really long time. I think it would be cool to look back on like what that movie did marketing wise. It is a really cool way they handled releasing it. I think I think it, as far as I feel now, and maybe I'll feel different when we rewatch it, but it felt more like a better experiment than the film itself. But another thing that was interesting about the Blair Witch news that buried in that story is that Blumhouse is reimagining Blair Witch, but they're also going to be reimagining other Lionsgate releases, like horror releases. So this is part of like a multi kind of picture deal, not just Blair Witch, but like some of their other Lionsgate titles. I know it sounds like we're shitting on Blumhouse. I don't feel too great about them spearheading this, and I also think it's hard to recreate like the whole reason like people enjoyed if they did like the Blair Witch Project was because like it was so of its time and the marketing was so good,
right?
And I don't know if you can like replicate that. Like that was part of the power of the movie if you did enjoy it, and I don't know if you can do that again.
I don't think so. I think like just we've come so far since then that it was kind of like a 1 in a million or of its time marketing ploy, but
yeah,
still has that legacy, and I always appreciate the movie because of that. I guess like I like just the lore of the Blair Witch, and I think witchcraft in this kind of sense, in the way like the witch that we just covered kind of tackles witchcraft, is super scary and interesting to see. So even though I don't have high expectations, I would probably keep my eye open for it and might even make the time to go watch it. But waiting with bated breath, I suppose, not really expecting much. But oh well, I'm always down. I'm looking forward to chatting that in July, though, for sure.
Yeah, and and speaking of Lionsgate again, they're trying to fuck with our planned dual episode for The Crow because they had delayed that movie, not by a lot. It was supposed to come out on June 7th. It's coming out on August 23rd now. No real reason why it was pushed. I'm not sure, but I suspect maybe because it was supposed to open against Bad Boys Ride or Die, and maybe they thought that was too much competition. And but one of my friends was like, I do not like that August 23rd release date. August scares me when it comes to certain movies because it's like, is it good or? But keep in mind that Alien Romulus is also coming out in August, and that looks great. So
yes, it does.
We talked about The Crow, and like we have different feelings about where this new one could be headed, but it's still coming out this year. And then I guess also Saw 11 is delayed as well. It was supposed to come out September 27th, 2024. I didn't know it was going to be that soon. But now it's coming out September 26th, 2025. They said they just want a little bit more time to develop the story. I can't believe they were going to rush it that quick. So
I didn't even know it was in development.
Yeah. So yeah. We don't necessarily love delays, but like I'm like, if you need to let Saw 11, that's so weird to say, cook a little bit more, let it cook more, I guess.
I guess so.
And we're still getting The Crow this year.
Yeah, it's too bad that it's not coming out the same month at the anniversary, because I'm planning on rewatching that in anticipation for the for the
Yeah.
remake, which I'm not 100% sold on, but there's parts of the trailer that I like, and I'm interested to see Bill Skarsgård in the role, and I like how gritty and violent it looks like. But I know I can't. So you must be on the other side of that. Were you not convinced?
I mean, I'll give it a shot. I mean, there's certain
I'm
times. I
not
mean,
sorry. I shouldn't say I'm convinced. I'm not convinced, but I'm willing to give it a shot too.
yeah, I like Bill Skarsgård. I think I told you before when we talked about it. Like The Crow itself, it's just hard not to separate the Brandon
Yeah.
Lee stuff from it, and that makes it a bit more of a powerful movie, the original at least. But I'm open to it. I'm not like I don't. I'll go in with an open mind. I'll say that.
There we go.
Right, we got some other movies in development, and I don't know why they are, but Lucky Chap, the production banner that Margot Robbie is involved with, they put together Barbie. They're making a Sims movie, and I guess they were going to continue just making random movies. They're making they're making a Monopoly movie. That very same based on the classic board game. And I don't know why.
I don't know why Margot Robbie is so up in arms to do these weird, obscure board game movies and doll movies.
Yeah.
I get Barbie on paper why she wanted to do that. I have no idea what appeals to her. She's doing the Sims movie and Monopoly.
Yeah,
right?
same production. Yeah, same production company. Yeah. So
What the hell is that all about?
I was like, I don't know how. I mean, her production company did do Saltburn. That was great. And but it is a really random. It's like she was like flipping through a book. She's like, "Ooh, we should do Sims." Like, "Ooh, we should do Monopoly." Like that. It just seems like a really weird
I'm
thing
with you.
to do. I mean,
I don't get it.
I mean, I'm not surprised. It's like just about anything can be a movie. But
should it though?
Really yeah, right.
No, I think that's super strange.
Yeah, and not really really on board with it. But again, like with every press release, they were like, "Oh, they came with us with a really cool original idea." I'm like, "All right, cool." I mean, if it kind of subverts expectations and it ends up being kind of like smart, like kind of satire, I guess there could be some potential there. But like you said, Hollywood is like a little creatively bankrupt a little bit.
Exactly. It's struggling. It needs to take things where they can and make movies out of them. And I don't know. I just feel like those aren't going to go anywhere. But I would have said the same thing when the Lego movie came out 10 years ago. And that movie is actually pretty decent and got good reviews. And so anything can happen, I suppose. But I don't get this. This is definitely I think we're at the beginning of a new trend that the Lego movie probably pioneered a little bit, a while ago. And Barbie has resuscitated. And we're going to be seeing more of these obscure toy movies. And I don't know. I'm not really here for it, but I'm sure they will be here until they start losing money.
Yeah.
Some interesting development. This is a story we've been covering for a while and looking at, but the 28 Years trilogy installment has found a director in its second one. So Danny Boyle and Alex Garland are coming back to do the first movie in that planned trilogy, and now the second movie, whatever, still untitled, but has found a director in Nia DaCosta, who's hot off the Marvels from 2023. I thought this was a really interesting directing decision, and I don't blame her for the Marvels failure.
I don't either. I just thought that was funny. I was like, define hot off the Marvels.
Yeah, hot off the frying pan, I guess.
Yeah, I guess what makes her an interesting choice though is that the Candyman movie she did was really good, and I like that.
I wasn't huge on that. I know it did well, it got well reviewed, and I get that there's probably still some faith in her as a director. But for me, like I saw this news, I was like, oh man, like her last two movies, I was not fans. I guess I didn't see the Marvels, but I don't need to.
Yeah,
just goes without saying. I wasn't huge on her Candyman, but again, I don't think what I didn't like about Candyman wasn't her direction, wasn't her fault. So I can't really lay blame on her either. So I guess I don't really feel any which way about this. I guess, but then again, I'm not even really a fan that this
a planned trilogy.
Exactly. I'm not huge on that anyway, but I will take this first movie and then make judgment after that and see if I'm ready for two more. But I'm all for 28 years later.
I will say the one thing I think is good news is like when Deadline covered it, they said the reason that they're trying to pick a director for the second one so fast is because they want to make sure that there is a cohesive story working from one director to the next. So I do like that they want to make sure that I do like that when they want to make sure that like, hey, we want the trilogy to be like one kind of cohesive like main story instead of doing what they did with like those new Star Wars movie and be like, yeah, we're gonna make it the Force Awakens and not plan how are we gonna do the other two.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do like that part, and I mean I liked Candyman enough that I think she's a good up and coming director, and I don't think the Marvels was her fault. Um, there's bigger cooks in that kitchen,
Exactly.
that and I don't think that it's a testament of her talent as a director. I think it's an
Nope.
interesting choice. Yeah, I
Be
don't
interested to
mind
see
it.
her do a horror movie. So or I guess no, sorry, she did Candyman, but I guess sort of a different approach. So
Yeah,
I guess I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. But if I gotta look and see if there's anything else that she's done that maybe I should check out before we get there. But
yep.
yeah,
All right. This next news is exciting.
exciting is right. Did you have this on your bingo card?
No, but I'm here for it. I
Me
was hyped for
too.
it. They are doing a live action R-rated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles project based on it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin, and it's actually a pretty dark story if they follow the actual like the
Right.
comic book closely. It's set in a totalitarian future in New York City. The comic miniseries told of how the Turtles and Master Splinter are killed off one by one by the grandson of the villainous Shredder and synthetic ninjas. One turtle manages to survive barely and vows to exact bloody vengeance. And I guess one of the tricks of the book is that you don't really know until which one of the turtles has survived because the actual turtle uses all of the weapons of each one,
And a
so you don't
black
really
mask. Yeah.
mask. Yeah. I This was like one of my favorite news stories from the week. Actually, I'm so excited for it. I
Me
thought that was
too.
because and honestly, if you go back to like the Ninja Turtles comic books from back in the day, like the black and white ones, they were not like this dark, but they were darker than what the thing is, like the Ninja Turtles became huge like toy wise, and then
Right.
they made like a kid friendly animated show, which is
The animated
amazing.
show was
uh
awesome growing up. I watched the shit out of that.
Now, what they did in 1990 with that first Ninja Turtle movie, which I still love, is that is as gritty of a at the time at least Ninja Turtles movie that you were gonna get. It's basically a crime thriller with turtles, guys, and like that first movie is really good and like a lot darker than people probably remember, and but a lot of parents, even though the movie made a lot of money, a lot of parents complained that the movie was too dark, and which is why the subsequent live action movies got very, very kid friendly. But the Ninja Turtles as a brand is just like still hugely successful. We just had that animated Mutant Mayhem, which was actually really good. That came out not too long ago, made a lot of money. So as a brand, it's still very much viable and works. I love that they're doing this. So I know that you sent me like you were like I'm down for this. You have any more further thoughts about like about the project?
Just that I've always been a huge fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles since I was a kid. I was big on the animated show. Like I said, there was like a video game for the original Xbox that Cam and I used to play way back in the day when we were just youngsters. I've always been a fan of the IP. I'm not really familiar with the comic storylines, yet I had heard of the Last Ronin storyline before. So to hear that they were getting an R-rated adaptation of that particular storyline was completely out of left field for me. And it was something that I just didn't know that I needed. So I am super on board for that. Cannot wait to see what becomes of that. I hope it's like, not saturated, not really R-rated. I want to see that. I want all the success for that storyline and that adaptation. So
Yeah,
very looking forward to it. Going to be following all the updates to that production religiously. I'll tell you that.
yeah. I was excited for that. That was my favorite news item of last week. So yeah, I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to
I'm
that
with
as
you.
well. Not sure how I feel about the next one. They're making another scary movie. um,
How long has it
there's already
been?
been the fifth one came out in 2013, so that was the last one that came out.
Wow.
Um, not it. They haven't really described if it's a reboot or a sequel. But it it's coming. And I guess like the cool thing, I guess, is there's a lot of new horror movie stuff to make fun of, like like legacy sequel thing, like a lot of stuff you can make fun of
Yeah,
now, I guess.
totally.
Um, what I will say, and I actually think is a viable concern. When the first movie came out, it came out in actually the first two. I'll say this.
Yeah.
Um, Comedy had like no limits back then, and there were and that movie it's hilarious, but
offensive by a lot of standards these days.
it's super offensive, and everyone is so politically correct now, and everyone is like, this isn't funny, that isn't funny. I don't know if it can work now, but just everyone's a little bit sensitive when it comes to comedy.
It's going to depend on how many, like how far the studio wants to stretch it and who they're willing to offend. Because I think there's potential in a lot of the new horror movie stuff, and I think A24 will probably take a lot of licks if they go forward with this. But yeah, it depends on who they want to offend, how much they're willing to let go.
Yeah. Are you a big fan of the franchise, or have you seen all of them?
I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen the first one a few times, and honestly, like there are some gut-busting laughs amongst those movies. I love, just as a film lover, just seeing the movies, like the references that they are picking at and putting in the movies. So it's always kind of fun, like homework to watch them, I feel. Yeah, I've seen the first two a couple times, the first one for sure, and they're iconic. Like, there are so many great sequences in those movies that are hilarious. So
yeah, I agree. And apparently Anna Faris and Regina Hall are interested. I don't know if they're going to get them, but they were in, the first four together, Brenda and Sydney.
Right.
Hilarious duo, actually. They were very funny
Definitely.
together. So I would, if they can get them back too, that'd be pretty cool. I would be down, but I am worried about the whole and everyone's a little bit more sensitive now when it comes to comedy. So
you're absolutely right. So it could be like literally, I don't know, very garbage level humor. Who knows? But I think it's an interesting idea to keep it going, and I think there's a lot of new material to make fun of since the last one. But I don't know. It could be like a series of its time that just will never replicate that magic again. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. Will probably be the case, but I guess we'll see.
Oh. All right. What do we got next?
Next up, I actually didn't know until reading this right now that Edgar Wright was doing this, but and that Stephen King had done this, but the infamous. It's an 80s, right? The Running Man.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. 80s action, which I've never seen The Running Man, but it is getting remade, excuse me, by Edgar Wright, starring Glenn Powell, which I'm excited for because I think that guy is a great up-and-coming talent. I don't love that this is a remake of an 80s action classic, but you know what? Like there's only a handful of those that haven't been touched yet, so I guess I can't say I'm surprised. But have you seen you've seen The Running Man, eh?
I have. It's a fun 80s movie. I haven't seen it
what do you think
a long
about,
time.
Yeah.
But I mean,
how about it being remade?
I don't think it needs to. I thought the biggest shock of that story was that Edgar Wright was doing it. I mean, more so than Glenn Powell being cast. I was like, oh, Edgar Wright. I didn't even know he was like circling like a remake of The Running Man. Like I had no idea that was like an upcoming project for him.
I love Edgar Wright though.
I do too. And as you know, everyone, Glenn Powell is having a moment. He's in everything right now. I honestly think he seems like he's well on his way to becoming probably one of the most successful like leading male actors in the industry right now. Like
absolutely,
and like and he really pounded pavement and put in work because he's been doing this a long time. But like he kind of like it seemed like he really Top Gun Maverick was when he kind of took off and then has not stopped since then.
No, he's on a roll.
But I'm actually down for it. Like, I think Glenn Powell's a good actor, and I like Edgar Wright. I'm just surprised that this was something that he was interested in doing. But
yeah, and a Stephen King adaptation too, which I did not know until today that he had done the original, or that he wrote the original. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it was funny because like Stephen King, I feel like he writes everything. There's certain stuff I'm like he wrote that. You're like, Jesus.
I know exactly. This is one of those. I'm just like, oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah. And another interesting thing too. I mean, this could potentially be good, but I have some concerns. A script based on the biography, the Chris Farley show, a biography in 3 acts, is being shopped around, and attached to star as Chris Farley is Paul Walter Hauser, which I think is actually pretty good casting. But it's supposed to be directed by Josh Gad. I think that's where it lost. That's where it lost me. And as we know, like Chris Farley was big on Saturday Night Live. He did some few movies with David Spade, Tommy Boy, Black Sheep. But tragically had a really big substance abuse problem and died of a drug overdose in the 90s. So like
it's only 33.
Yeah, very much a larger than life performer and really funny. I'm actually surprised that a movie about him wasn't made sooner because there's potential there. I think Paul Walter Hauser, I think that is, at least looks wise, is pretty good
I gotta look. I
He's a
know
good
his
actor.
name, but I don't know what I
He's a
know
good
him
actor
from.
too.
Mhm.
But I don't know. Like I, I'm just a little like question mark on the Josh Gad
Yeah, I'm
directing
not
it.
a huge fan of Josh Gad, so I'm not sold on that either. But I
Yeah,
don't know much about Chris Farley. I got to do some research on him. I know that he was, is an infamous comedian and had his ties to SNL, but didn't know he died so
yeah,
young. That was surprising for me to see. So I don't know much about his life, but that's pretty interesting that he's finally getting a biopic
yeah.
in his honor.
And it could be good if it's done right. So,
Totally.
uh, but yeah, and I jokingly, it's not written here, but I jokingly said that we have a short like legal segment of the show right now, so
Right.
we can just update you on some stuff that we've have talked about in past episodes. The Rust Armor Hannah Gutierrez Reed, uh, she was sentenced to 18 months in prison for involuntary manslaughter in the 2021 shooting death Helena Hutchins. Alec Baldwin is also I think has his day in court soon too. Um,
Mm,
I think that he will likely get off, but there are some people that were like, "Hey, he was a producer. He should have been more, I guess, responsible for like a lot of stuff that was going on that set." And apparently, that set was legit, like kind of like a Wild Wild West kind of situation where a lot of corners are being cut. And if
right.
you're a producer, like how much responsibility you have, and then also, but if you're an actor, how much responsibility are you supposed to have handling a prop gun? I mean,
Right.
I get, you know. So, but
Big conversation to
I
be
wasn't
had
surprised that
there.
she, yeah, yeah, I wasn't surprised that she. I guess it does seem a little long, but I don't know.
She got
It's
the maximum sentence that she was facing there too, was the 18 months. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And that situation is just tragic in and of itself. Uh, that was one of the first, like we covered that a lot on the show, and I don't know. It was just really sad. Like it was like one of those things where, and you
definitely.
could tell that she up and comer, like photographer. She like had a lot of potential, and like a lot of people really liked her. Uh, not one of the best things to cover when it happened, but it did kind of bring up an interesting point about gun safety and all that stuff. I mean, because like the industry had gone through that with Brandon Lee in 1994 with The Crow, and
Mm,
like, and so you would think like it'd be a lot safer doing these kind of
yeah.
things, but uh,
Yeah.
doesn't
Well,
seem like
at
it.
least people are being held accountable. I'd be interested to see what becomes of Alec Baldwin's case when that ends up happening. But the saga is kind of wrapping up almost. I think like that was a big
Yeah,
thing people were waiting on. So yeah, I feel bad for
yeah,
everyone involved. I'm sure that obviously is not the outcome that Hannah Gutierrez was looking for, and didn't obviously plan on
right.
having anybody killed as a result of her negligence, I suppose. So I do feel bad for her as well, of course. But unfortunate. But at least there's lessons to be learned, and
Yeah.
it looks like they are being learned. So that's a good sign.
Yep. And hopefully this is the last time we'll have to bring up Jonathan Majors, but I think there's like a conclusion to on another
Nice.
legal
Yep.
note. Um I wasn't surprised that he didn't get jail time. I kind of figured he wouldn't. But
Yeah.
he was sentenced to domestic violence counseling, and he avoided jail time. He's also going to be he's on probation as well. Um and that's pretty much all we have to say. I think that kind of wraps up what we needed to talk about with him, because we were like, hey, like
Right.
we'll let you know what the result is of that. I know some people thought it was like kind of a slap on the wrist. But guys, he's already been like, the court of public opinion has been far harsher on him. So I think
Yeah.
I can't see him really. I can't see a career rehabilitation thing happening anytime soon.
Definitely not the end of his woes, that's for sure. Just probably the end of the legal stuff. But I doubt he'll ever recover. So
Yeah,
punishment
exactly.
has been doled out for him for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess now, do you want to tell everyone how you beat me again at the box office game?
Yeah, so like Gaze mentioned, we are circling back to Civil War here. We had predicted last week or a couple weeks, no, last week, that it would
Yeah.
it's or what it would make at the box office this weekend, and you said final tally came in at 25.7 million, right?
Yeah.
So you would guess 23. We were pretty close, both of us. You'd guess 23, and I had rounded up just a little bit over to 25, which you're right, puts me puts me with another win this week. Oh well, glad to see that movie's doing so well at the box office. It's already made half of its production budget back in its opening weekend, so safe to say that movie will, unless it drops off a cliff, will probably go on to make a decent budget or decent profit. Sorry, glad to see it. And A24 definitely needs that. It put a lot of money. It was this A24's most expensive movie at that $50 million budget mark. So happy to see that. And this weekend we are chatting or trying to predict Abigail, new horror movie. And what studio did Abigail?
I think Universal. I think Universal is doing it. Yeah. Let me see if I can pull up tracking.
And
it looks
is this one that you've already screened or no? Okay.
Actually, I actually screened it this week.
Fantastic.
It looks good. It already has a 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, so pretty decent score so far.
Okay.
And I also heard from people who have seen it already that it's a bloody good time. There is lots of gore. It's supposed to be like a really fun horror movie. So I'm looking forward to that. Surprise. The high end is pretty high. It's $28 million on the high end.
Whoa.
Opening weekend. The low end is 18.
That's quite a gap.
It's a really big gap. I don't know. Damn. I mean,
I'm letting you guess first, so you better make up your mind. That is a crazy tracking gap, though. $10 million.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna go with 20, and that's not a bad opening weekend. I don't know how.
No, that's great.
There's potential for it to break out, but I think 20 is a good start.
I still feel like Civil War is going to maintain a lot of that high for people that didn't get to go see it opening weekend. So because of that, I'm going to go a little bit on the lower end of the tracking too. But just so that we don't have the exact same number, I'll probably go with 20. Oh, just to make things interesting, I'll go 21 and a half. Why not?
There you go.
Throwing in a half digit there.
I know. And honestly, you've clearly been better at this game than I have. So,
man, blind luck. Blind luck.
Every week.
I don't have any insight into box office trends. If anything, you do. But
Well, yeah, we're looking forward to that one. And by the way, too, I just want to throw this out there before we wrap up. Challengers has a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes with 6 reviews counted so far.
Whoa.
That makes me even more excited to see it. The reviews so far have been like really, really, really good. Some people are even calling it his best film, which I think is interesting too. So there we go. I mean, April is shaping up to be a decent month at the movies.
Absolutely. Very excited. That's the end of the month, right? I'm super.
Yeah, April 26th. Very excited to see that.
Yeah, well, we'll be predicting that one then here in another week or so. But that wraps up everything, and I mean everything that we threw at you guys. This was like the most news stories, I think, by a wide margin that we've ever thrown into one episode, and that was due to us having a week off, just doing some other sorts of episodes. So, guys, if you're still hanging on, I guess we made record timing for all this stuff too. It's been cut to like an hour and a half, so. Appreciate you guys listening to everything we had to throw at you guys today in what was episode 167 of Back to the Blockbuster, special 2-week news episode coverage. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us again for another episode. You guys know the drill. Anywhere you guys get your social media or your podcast, you can find us at the handle at Back to the Blockbuster. Make sure if you haven't already, guys, go check us out on playlist. You guys can get that from any app store that you guys have, regardless of your device. Got to give some love to them, and we appreciate you guys sticking with us for episode 167. Always a pleasure, Gaius, chatting news with you, and I will see you later in the week for some other episodes, and we'll see you guys on the socials. Take care of yourselves, and see you next week.
Peace.